All right, we are here in Jeffries Hall, looking out on the beautiful law quad, and I'm here with Michele Fraser Wing and Lois Harden in the law school. And we're here because, well, you know, I thought I knew about the law school. I've lived in Ann Arbor a long time, went to school here, and if anyone asks, like, oh, where's the law school? Where's the law quad? I know exactly where it is. I could point anyone there. And then we came to like have a pre-meeting and prep, and came to the law quad, showed up, and then realized, where do I go? What am I doing? Where is everything? And that meeting, the first time we met, was really indicative of, I think, what the law quad is for a lot, or the law school is for a lot of non-lawyers that are alumni, is that, yeah, we know it, and we know like some interesting facts, and it's, you know, all these things, and it's hard to separate fact from fiction. It's hard to say, okay, once you get to the law school, then what do you do? Where do you go? You know, where are the buildings? And so, you know, I'd heard some interesting, crazy stories, and I thought the podcast was going to be about these, like the story I thought I knew. And then after our pre-meeting, it turned out that our podcast was going to be about the things I thought I knew that I didn't know. So we're calling it Law School, Fact or Fiction, and some great stories from there. So thanks so much for coming on and for humoring me and all my misinformation. So to start off, this is the thing I thought I knew. I thought I knew that all the stones that were used to build the original law quad all come from the same quarry, and it's this quarry in Ireland. And the quarry went dry, and then they couldn't find stones to do add-ons. And I've told that story to a lot of people, actually. So please tell me it's true.
It is not true.
It's not true.
No.
All right. Is there any truth to it?
No.
Okay. Tell us about the stones.
Well, we have two different types of stone.
Okay.
We have an Indiana limestone. Do you think Indiana limestone came from Ireland?
I'm hoping there's a town in Ireland called Indiana.
And then we have granite that's
Okay.
from Massachusetts, Weymouth, Massachusetts. What type of granite is it?
So actually, you are partially right in that all the granite did come from the same quarry.
Okay.
But it all came from a quarry in Weymouth, Massachusetts.
So it's true. It's made in America. It's not.
It's made in America.
It's made in
It's
America.
not from.
But there's a lot of detail, and I mean, while maybe it's not like all from this quarry that went dry, there was a lot of care. It was they had to be real careful selecting stones and matching them up, and there was quite a process to that, right?
High quality. Definitely high quality.
There was a lot of process to it because when they were originally building the building, the donor was very particular about the way that he wanted it to look, and so the stone that you see on the building that's more amber colored is called seam-faced granite. So it's when you come across these seams of color in granite, they cut the stone in a particular way to show off that color. So there's lots of that on the law quadrangle, the part of the law quadrangle that's the oldest part of the building. So then when we were building Jeffries Hall, we went through a process of trying to figure out what stone we wanted to have. And in the end, after looking at 9 different stone from 9 different quarries, we ended up choosing to go back to the original quarry to pull the stone from that original quarry so that it would match as well as possible.
And it went to a different part of the quarry because that quarry, that area was no longer available for the same granite that we had on our original.
So there are nuggets of truth there.
There's nuggets of truth.
A part of the quarry ran dry. It was the same quarry, and there is a lot of nuance, and there's a meticulous nature to the donor wanted it to look a certain way, and so there's all that there. It's just not true that like the reason the law school goes 500 miles underground is because they ran out of stone, right? That's not true.
No,
okay,
that is not true.
Okay, fine. I'll stop telling myths there. Okay, so tell me about, I've heard, or there's the rumors, tell me if the rumors are true, that there are gargoyles around the law quadrangle, and one of them is meant to represent one of the presidents, the presidents of the University of Michigan. Is that true?
True.
That is true.
That's fact.
That is
fact.
fact.
Okay. What's the story with that?
Want to talk about Hutchins?
Go ahead.
So they decided, and our donor did not know that they were going to do these gargoyles, and they decided to do these cartoons type gargoyles, and depicted some of, I don't know who else besides Hutchins there are. Do you know?
Bates is one.
I think, there were a couple different presidents and maybe a couple of different deans that they had done. And there was a little bit of a turmoil with the donor and some of the people that were depicted in them, and he asked that the heads of the gargoyles be removed. So that is a story that I actually just read in an article.
That's
recently,
hilarious. So there is truth to the fact that, like, those gargoyles are like presidents and deans of the university.
There
Yes.
is definitely true. And when you look at them, you can tell because, like, one of them has glasses. So
Oh,
if you
that's
pull up
interesting.
pictures of the actual people, they definitely did a very good job of
Representing
recreating the
the
people. So.
That's super interesting. Okay, so let's talk about the chapel in the law quadrangle. So I've heard there's like a 7-year wait for a wedding in the chapel. And Shelly, who's off camera right now, I believe she's at the top of the list we heard earlier. So what's the deal with that? I mean,
And
why?
where do you think that chapel is?
Well, I don't know, but what about the 7-year wait? Is there?
This is my favorite story that I've heard
Yeah.
recently about the law quad because if you really think about it, who's signing up, getting engaged, and then signing up to wait for 7 years?
Yeah, that's true.
People very passionate about the law. That's who.
So it is what people think is the chapel is actually the dining hall for the Lawyers Club. And there is no law school chapel. We're a public school. We don't have a chapel.
And we do not allow people to get married in the quad either.
Oh, interesting.
No.
So you can't have.
We get requests from that about 10 to 20 a year, if not more.
Easily.
People come through and they do wedding pictures, I believe.
Yes.
But
We allow that, and as Shelley's,
So we have, if you come by the law school on any given spring, summer, fall weekend, you will find limousines double parked on
Yes.
the road where bridal parties are taking pictures
Yeah.
in the lawyers.
yeah, right.
Yeah, sometimes they ask for permission, and most of the time they do not.
That's interesting. So obviously a lot of these stories are fiction. Maybe I made them all up, but I heard them, and we're going to talk about like where maybe some of these stories are coming from. But because Michelle has a good story on that one. Okay. So this I know this one's true. Law library is definitely used in more than one Harry Potter movie.
False again.
That's false too?
Yes.
All right. Any movies?
It actually has been. So during the time when there were lots of movies being filmed in Michigan, the law school was in several of them.
Oh,
And
okay.
in fact, they filmed in some of the classrooms and they filmed in the library. So it has been used
Yeah.
in several movies that have had done some filming in Ann Arbor. But I think there are
Nothing in the reading
plenty of Gothic locations in England or in the
Yeah, I
UK.
suppose that doesn't make a
they
ton of sense. I mean, Michigan, we had great tax credits at the time,
At the
so
time.
like potentially
We were getting requests on a pretty frequent basis.
right. I mean,
for filming.
that makes sense.
But not Harry Potter.
I mean,
not
that
Harry
one.
Potter.
That one is one that I've heard from multiple sources. It's
Oh, I hear it all the time.
Yeah, you still hear it? Yeah. So once again, fiction. Okay, so Lawyers Club. What is the Lawyers Club, by the way?
The Lawyers Club is the residence hall.
Okay, that's just
attached to the law quad.
So is it true that the Lawyers Club that is attached to and looks like it's part of the Law Quad is not owned by the university?
So it's actually owned by the university. The
Okay.
building is owned by the university, but it is run by a separate nonprofit corporation.
Oh, interesting.
So, and that was also, again, the donor setting up the separate nonprofit corporation in order to have it. Because at the time, he was in conflict with the dean and with lots of people at the law school or at the university. And he didn't trust a lot. So he felt like he wanted to make sure that it was well run. So he was going to set up a separate corporation to run it.
Interesting.
So.
I mean, there was ton of conflict, it sounds like, between, and I think you had told me that there were like letters written back and forth and a lot of conflict between the donor and the university trying to get this building made.
Yeah, everything was corresponded via letter.
Oh,
because he had
interesting.
never seen the buildings, nor did he want to.
He never saw the buildings, nor did he want to.
No.
But everything, he was very particular about everything. There was correspondence about the stone, about the limestone, about the dishes that would be purchased
About the
for the
furniture.
dining hall, for the
Yeah.
furniture.
The type of chair that was in the reading room.
Oh, wow.
You know, everything.
There were so many details that he focused on, and yet he never wanted to see it, nor did he ever see it before he died.
Wow, that's crazy. So it's funny because guaranteed everyone listening right now has heard at least one, if not more, of these rumors, and I guess there were some nuggets of truth in there. And we, had talked some time back about where these rumors get started. Orientation, perhaps. Orientation leaders, perhaps. And Michelle, you have a good orientation leader story.
I do.
Would you be willing to share that?
I could. Back in the day when I
We can cut it if we decide it's too controversial.
Okay.
Later.
Many moons ago, when I wasn't working in orientation, we spent a summer doing campus tours, and we thought we wanted to spice it up a little halfway through the summer. There were some people who wanted to spice it up a little halfway through the summer. So we tried to figure out what things could we make up that we thought people would believe. And so one of the stories that got made up during that summer was that when you are a freshman and you come through orientation, you walk one way through the fountain in front of that's next to the league. And when you graduate, you walk the other way through the fountain when you in front of the league. So.
I mean, this is like equivalent to learning that Santa Claus is not real. The fact that that's not like a thing that was like, time-honored tradition from, hundreds of years. I agree, but that it was some bored orientation leaders in the midway through the summer that just made something up is somewhat hilarious, and I'm glad I know it now, but it's also somewhat devastating.
I mean, they were very convincing.
and it goes to show, like, and maybe we joked, like, this is maybe a whole nother podcast is fact and fiction orientation leaders and their stories. But we got to imagine that the law quad and the law school is such a big part of orientation, and the tours that are given.
Yeah.
That, I mean, a
I
decent
stopped
number.
to listen to them most times.
Oh, you
just
do?
to see what they're saying.
What have you heard any fictions?
We hear a lot about the movies.
Okay.
Being filmed in the reading room for sure.
Yeah.
It's very interesting.
Yeah, I mean, you got some kids following, you got parents, no one's fact checking you, and you just make stuff up about the law quad, right? Well, that's great. I like I said, I thought we were going to go into depth about this quarry in Ireland, and it turned into all the untruths that are out there. But I think the reason there's so much. There's so many myths out there is because there's like so much lore, and it's a little bit mysterious and such an iconic part of campus that everyone wants to talk about it, right? Everyone wants to talk about it.
I think that's true, and there are always, and part of what happens when you come here is because there's so much tradition and so much history of the entire campus that there are stories that people tell about places all over campus that have been told for centuries around here. So,
but the interesting thing about the law quad and the law school is, I think the whole, students of all disciplines, of all majors, they feel like an ownership, a connection, even though they weren't lawyers or they weren't pre-law or lawyers, because it is so iconic to campus, and so you can speak proudly of it, like you would speak proudly of athletics or football or basketball, even if you didn't play or whatever. Similarly, the law school, where I don't know that all disciplines have that same cachet. So it's a really kind of treasured thing.
I think that's true. We
That is
see
true.
that a lot during graduation, where
Yeah.
we see not only law students bringing their families through to see it, but
Yeah.
we see lots of undergrads who
Yeah.
bring their families through to
Absolutely.
look at it. I studied there when I was an undergrad too. So.
Yeah, we have lots of undergrads. We have to separate the reading room in half
Oh.
so that we can allow the undergrads to have a portion of it along with our law school students to have their section.
You heard it here. That is a fact. Undergrads are allowed to study
Yeah.
in the reading
Oh,
room.
no.
All right.
Yeah,
I know.
they are.
That's
They are.
fiction.
No.
Don't say anything.
We had a trampoline in there once too.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. That's pretty impressive. Well, thank you so much. That was a lot of fun, and we appreciate having you on. And maybe we'll be back for round 2 of Fact or Fiction Law Quad Edition in the coming months and years. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, and we're back with Michele Fraser Wing and Lois Harden. I know for those of you listening, we just left, but we finished taping. And then we took our headsets off. We started talking and rattled off another series of like, hey, but I heard this. And we were just kind of hanging out. And I was like, oh, I heard that one. And we wanted to get it on tape. So here we are. All right. So I said, there's like the law school is so like fancy and nice and takes care of their lawyers so well that there's a golf course in the basement of the law school. Fact or fiction?
Well, kind of fact. We don't
Yes.
really have a
Yes.
golf course in the law school. However, we do an annual mini golf in the underground
okay.
library, the Smith
Okay.
Library, which has notorious green carpet that looks like you're in a mini golf. And we've been expanding that every year. And now we're at the point where we're going to close the library down, like 4 hours earlier than it normally would close. It's for a fundraiser
Oh, okay.
for one of our student works.
Okay. All right. That makes a lot more sense. But I still like that I'm basically right.
You were kind
I'm
of
not changing my story on
We'll
that
give
one.
you that one.
Okay. All right. All right. Well, awesome. Thank you.